Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode 23, recording on August 7th, 2020. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name's Andrew.
And we got some surprise news yesterday. Sony dropped a state of play with some PS4, PSVR, and PS5 stuff. We'll be going over all the announcements there. A little news to talk about, as well as new Suicide Squad game, or the new Rocksteady game, I should say, being teased today, and maybe dig a bit into some Microsoft Xcloud iOS issues that are going on, and we'll talk a bit about what we played. I've been playing Shadow of the Colossus, and I have some very serious thoughts about that.
Can't wait.
And if you're into serious thoughts about games and in-depth conversations, you should check out our last separate episode, so to speak, of Game Junk Reviews, The Last of Us Part 2, which I thought went pretty well. Scott joined us for that, and it was a very serious discussion. We pretty much improved the game by leaps and bounds, in theory. And everyone agrees. Everyone's like, yeah, you're right. Everyone is right on this. Of course we're right. That's what we do. How you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, thanks to Scott for joining us last week. There were some technical issues. What can you do? I think Skype isn't great with 4 people. I think that was part of the problem personally, but we'll see. Maybe next time we'll have to force the Zoom issue instead.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the potential for family member streaming as well, which you never know what's going on those routers in houses. Could be problems. All right, well, let's get right into it. Sony State of Play yesterday, as I mentioned. A surprise to me anyway. I didn't know about it. You guys were messaging me, and I'm like, oh, interesting. So let's dig right in. The first announcement was Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time, and getting into some of the modes in that. And I actually think this game looks pretty cool. I didn't get too far into the trilogy remaster. I'm definitely a huge fan of the first Crash Bandicoot, and I realized I'll never platinum it, and it made me furious, and I didn't really get into the second game. But this one's developed by Toys for Bob, who has done a lot of the Skylanders games, including the first one. And I think the platforming looks good. The problem with the post Crash 3 sequels is that they really just threw the controls to the wind, and it was extremely loose, not tight platforming. They were disasters. As fans of the original games, I could not play those games. But I think they know that, and they're trying to address it, along with multiple characters. I like the different modes, where it was different art styles for reskinning levels and a mirror mode kind of thing. I actually had an idea very similar to that for a game I always wanted to make. I won't get too much into it here, but there's a few that maybe they're not thinking of that I want to use, so I won't say them. But I'm into this game. I'm actually really looking forward to it. What did you guys think?
Yeah, this one was announced a while back, I think, right? But was this the first gameplay that we saw?
No, there was other gameplay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Crash, I never grew up playing the original games. I played a little bit of the trilogy, but it definitely felt a little rough around the edges, a little dated. I wasn't totally digging it, but I like the look of this. There's some cool mechanics in it. Stuff they kind of feel like they've cherry picked from other games, but I'm in.
I thought it looked really good. I don't think I played Crash 2 or 3. I think I just played the first one, and it looked like a nice kind of return to form of that. I like that there's multiple characters. It seems like there's going to be different play styles through them. I agree with Frank. I like that sort of like, what did they call it? The flipping the levels or something like that. Like basically they take an existing level and they apply new mechanics.
Inverted mode.
Okay. So there was like, you spray paint, you're in water, like stuff like that, but running a level you've already done before. And the weird thing I thought, though, was that they mentioned how they're going to have like a bunch of skins for everybody. or for all the characters.
No MTX here.
Yeah, and they really emphasize that. So that seemed a little weird for a game like this, but because you're not playing online, as far as I know, right?
No,
or is there not?
No, I think it's just like skins, and every announcement is more about anticipating blowback and everyone trying to cover their asses with whatever they say. And like if you announce skins, people assume it's microtransactions or pay to play or something, and it's like, okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
So it's whatever.
I mean,
it's at this point.
I thought the single player skins worked well in like Spider-Man, but I don't know why they would be needed in a game like this. But I don't know if if they want to make them, that's fine.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go through these relatively quickly, I think. So if I move on too early, you let me know. Next was, I don't know if this was next actually technically, but I'm just using an article. I don't remember the exact order. Hitman Trilogy on VR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really gotten into Hitman. The trailer looked kind of interesting, like the using. I don't want to be too sadistic here, but using the cord to strangle someone with VR.
The garrote wire
or whatever. Yeah, I thought it was like, okay, I could see the potential for using free hand motion in VR with the series. I think compared to other games, like there is an interesting observational element to Hitman where I think putting you in the environment could be interesting, like who you're following, who you're looking at. If the gameplay, I mean, it's kind of similar to Shadow of the Colossus. Hitman is to me like there's this weird series of events that have to happen, and you're kind of testing the waters and you're experimenting with ways to approach things. And there is a correct path or optimal paths, I think. So I'll definitely get into this more with Shadow of the Colossus when I talk about it. But I never felt like I knew exactly what to do in Hitman, and the figuring it out for myself was a little too open. I'm sure that's what some people love about the series. I tend to like a little more guided on rails approach to the games I play. But I don't know. It seems kind of cool coming in 2021. Any thoughts?
It looked really good to me. I was just looking to see, and it just says 2021, January 2021. And it doesn't specify the platform.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. I assume it's...
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a PS5 only, because I think in order to like really get immersed, you'd probably need like a really powerful machine to render all those people on screen. From doing some VR development, it's tough to get a lot of people on screen and have the frame rate up. So I'm assuming they didn't want to really drop that little nugget and piss people off.
Yeah, or they're waiting. Yeah, I don't think we actually talked about it on the show officially. I don't remember, but I found an article after that stated PSVR is backwards compatible or forwards compatible, pardon me, with PS5, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. Because obviously you're not upgrading the resolution of the device, but obviously you have all that processing power, which is going to be huge for VR games. So I don't know. I think that's a good thing.
It says here it hits PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC in January, along with PlayStation VR. It doesn't really say if the PlayStation VR version is PS5 only. Doesn't seem like that's the case.
It said Hitman 3, but the previous two were also, the whole trilogy is going to be playable in VR as well. So,
right.
How they're going to handle that, I don't know, but I don't know. It's promising, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like a game that could translate well to VR. Like it's kind of slower paced. It's not super action oriented. So I think this could be pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Next was Braid Anniversary Edition. That I never actually beat Braid. I'm slightly embarrassed to say, but I would like to go back and revisit it. I didn't think it was amazing by any means, but I thought it was pretty cool. and I really thought the commentary stuff they were showing and how they plan to have the most expansive in-game commentary take or whatever, a treatment. I think that could be really cool. And even the one image they showed where it was like, I think directional options and maybe how they broke down design or locomotion, I thought that could be really interesting to look at.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
When I saw the trailer, I thought for sure it was going to be Braid 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being that it's a remake of Braid 1, a little disappointing, but, you know, it is a game that I didn't get all the way through either. So I'd be interested in going back to it. It's kind of like one of the first few classic Xbox Live Arcade games, or like sort of it started the whole indie craze on console, I think, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm definitely interested in this for the developer commentary, but also I beat Braid, but I don't know if I really beat the full game of Braid, because I don't know if you guys remember the Xbox Live developer community back when we were at Silicon Knights. And basically, if you were on your development Xbox 360, you had access to other games that other indie developers were putting up there. So I ended up beating Braid like a year before it came out. So I don't know. It probably wasn't a year, but I mean, like quite a bit before it came out. So I don't even know if what I played was really the full experience or not. So I'm definitely interested in going back and giving this a try and seeing how it is, how it's held up. Because I think it should hold up from what I remember.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part of the video was we now have 9 pixels for every 1 pixel that was in the previous game.
There you go. I must say, as a whole, like kind of overarching theme of this presentation, I really like these videos that showed lots of gameplay with the developer commentary over top. And I thought all of the best trailers or gameplay videos had this commentary going on. And I hope in the future they continue to do that, because I think it really worked well.
Yeah, I mean, we always complain less cinematic trailers, more gameplay. And I mean, the best games that when we see them at E3, I've always said you can imagine playing it. Like the feedback, whatever information you need, you're like, oh, I knew that that's what I needed to do. And we certainly said, I don't like with the Halo Infinite, it looks like a pre-programmed demo almost. Like it looked too perfect. So I'm with you, Huck. I love these gameplay breakdowns. I mean, we'll get to Godfall later. It had an in-depth, like almost too much gameplay breakdown.
Oh yeah.
I still prefer it to some other videos I've seen recently. Next was Spelunky 2. Never got into Spelunky. I believe it's a roguelike to some degree.
Yes.
Like they were talking about runs and stuff like that. So
it is, yeah. Very popular game.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Spelunky was published by Sony. I didn't know it was like kind of a Sony exclusive. I never realized that.
I don't think.
Oh, it is.
It is.
It
Really?
is. I know it doesn't look like it, but I looked it up yesterday. I was thinking about. Oh no, wait.
It is out for Xbox.
No, I'm wrong.
Or it was on 360 at one point. I think that's how I played it originally.
Sorry. I know what I think. Where I looked it up, they said that, and it is wrong. So thank you. That's why I was surprised when I saw it yesterday, because I didn't know that one. I thought that was on lots of stuff.
Yeah,
But I think the trophy website I looked. Let me just double check so I don't. Yeah, it said publisher Sony Computer Entertainment, which, I mean, maybe it's just the way they handle old PSN games and Vita games. Sorry, my mistake. I apologize.
Yeah, the original version was a free game for PC.
Okay.
But
it's been a long time too. I think it was like 2008 or something like that, or 2009.
Over 10 years, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, needle wasn't moving. Kind of made me think I should check out the original, but there's no platinum trophy. See you later.
Yeah, I'll probably check it out, but it did cross my mind that this is the kind of game I would wait to hopefully see on Game Pass. So if it is a Sony exclusive this time around,
I don't think
probably won't happen.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Next was
Well, hang on.
Vader.
Just to touch on this, I really like this trailer as well, because it had the commentary over top, but it also had a lot of nice gameplay features that they didn't even explicitly say, like the liquid physics when you blow up the wall and having the water drain out. Now, I don't know how much of that is carryover from the original Splunky, but it looks like they added quests, which they didn't explicitly state. They talked about how they had like an in-game community and online multiplayer and stuff. So it sounded like I just really like this sort of like explanation of stuff as you're going along, but also showing gameplay that gives more of like a hardcore fan base even more to go off of. And I think they did a really good job with this gameplay trailer as well.
Definitely. Next up was Vader Immortal for PlayStation VR. Now, there was some other weird Star Wars VR tie-in, I think, at some point, like an episodic one. Am I imagining that on PSVR?
Not on
Sounds familiar.
PlayStation. This game was like a episodic thing on Oculus.
Oh, okay. So that's the one I'm thinking of. But the reviews are actually pretty good for it. I thought it was supposed to be crap, but I mean, there's not a lot on the Metacritic, but they're relatively high. So it had me definitely more intrigued by this game. I'll probably not drop tier. I almost said drop tier. I'll definitely pick it up and never play it at the very least. Even because I say I'm going to play every game in VR, and never do.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out this month. I've been kind of curious. It feels like it's a little bit more of like an on rails type experience from what I've seen of it. But like you said, the reviews have been pretty good, so I'll probably check it out.
So do you guys know what the series part of is? It said like a VR series.
It was just that episodic thing we were talking about where they kind of released this game in episodes.
Oh, originally?
Yeah, and I think it's the whole thing, I believe, that's coming to. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Next was the second expansion for Control. Not interested in talking about it at all. Have not played the first expansion. Kind of mad that it killed my 100% and platinum trophy on my profile. Huck, do you give a fuck about your Game of the Year's DLC, which you'll never look at?
Nope. I don't do DLC usually.
Exactly.
I thought it looked pretty cool. I mean, I was like, what game is this? And then I was like, oh, DLC for Control. Damn.
I must say it didn't tell much.
Sean?
No, I haven't played Control, so I mean, I really do feel like I need to put it on the top of my list, but
you'll love it.
You do.
Like, you'll love it because you're only going to play it for 2 hours, which is perfect. Anything after 2 hours is where it starts to get terrible. So
okay,
dig in for the 2 hours, 100%. Next was, this is out of order, so just bear with me. Temtem, which I knew nothing about, which looks like basically a Pokemon ripoff, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, it is. It had a big kind of explosion, I think, on Steam a couple months ago. It was kind of all the rage for a little bit. I think it was in early access. And so I guess this is kind of like their announcement that they're bringing it to consoles or to PS5.
Really polished. I couldn't help but notice a heavy Nintendo influence, which I'm fine with, but not into Pokemon. Don't really give a shit about this. Anyone else?
Nope.
I skipped through it on YouTube, like the 5-second intervals. Also, one I skipped through mostly to see if there was any gameplay was Hood Outlaws and Legends for PS5, which was really just, from what I could tell, a cinematic trailer. I had no idea it was a 4v4 multiplayer heist game based on what I saw.
Oh, really? That's what it is?
Yes.
Wow. I thought it was going to be some sort of like Assassin's Creed style.
So did I. So I'm just reading that right now. So
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about this one is I was kind of only half paying attention to it, and at some point there was a character that I swear looked like Kratos, and I was like, "Wait, is this God of War?" I don't know if I like just caught something out of the corner of my eye, and I was like not seeing it right, but Frank's giving me a look like I'm crazy, so maybe that's the case. But I was very confused at first, and then I was like, I don't know what this game is. We'll never play it.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've talked about Peter Pan many times, and how it's like how people keep retrying to tell Peter Pan, and I always say kids don't like Peter Pan, and kids tell me I'm wrong, but I still know I'm right. Peter Pan, Mister Rogers, and Robin Hood. I like Disney's Robin Hood, but like retelling Robin Hood over and over again, like when are people gonna get it? Like people aren't that into Robin Hood. Get over it. Like the worst franchise to pick, in my opinion, to try to build something on. Get out of here. Some other stuff. Bug Snacks for PS5. Everything I see about this game makes me like it more and more. I know I've talked about the Viva Pinata-esque elements to it with the creatures and how they're designed, but the comedy, I mean, I wasn't laughing out loud on the Frank scale. They're probably ones and twos, but they were all hits. Like there was no strikeouts or, big misses. I'm kind of digging Bug Snacks, and I think I want to check it out.
I thought you would. It looks like they just took the traps from Horizon Zero Dawn and plucked them right into catching snacks.
There's that for sure. There's really everything about Viva Pinata, like the way you build that journal and do research. Maybe aside from the mating, there was some
definitely some Pokemon Snap influence in
Okay.
there with the pictures and stuff, but I thought it looked kind of cool.
Did we see a gameplay trailer of this before, or was it just cinematic?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't recall.
Sorry, it was just cinematic. I don't think that.
Yeah,
like you're seeing now how you lure creatures and all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the puzzle. I don't recall seeing any of the puzzle stuff before, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Trying to figure it out, like trying to force them into a certain pipe to like scare the creature out or whatever they did. Yeah, look good.
Now, before I'm going to take a quick interlude in a second, but before we do that, we'll talk about Godfall, which I believe was mentioned in the previous PlayStation 5 state of play, but this was the last thing in this and a really in-depth look at the gameplay. I think it looks good. I like what I'm seeing. I wouldn't say I'm like insanely excited for the game, but I thought it looked pretty. The combat looked interesting. I'm not a loot guy. They were saying it's basically like a skilled action combat game with loot elements, like a god tier loot system or some bullshit like that. I can't remember. Loot does nothing for me, but the different modes of combat looked interesting. I'll be honest, I skipped through this one a bit too. I was kind of already at the point where I'll probably pick it up, especially if it's on PS5 and I'm looking for stuff to play on there. But yeah, I would just rather experience it for myself. So I don't know what you guys are thinking.
I actually thought this game didn't look very interesting at all. And even from before, I didn't really think it was interesting. It looked to me like a bunch of corridors with like one or two enemies that you fight. And I don't know if we made this comparison last time, but it looks like Too Human to me.
I literally thought the exact same thing.
Okay. I couldn't remember if we mentioned it last time.
You said that.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Even all the weapon types they have seem right out of Too Human. Like the whole looter slasher, like that was the whole thing we were going for with that game. Other than the camera control, this almost looks exactly the same. And obviously it won't use the right stick for combat, but
I mean
like that.
Too Human was definitely going for, like, to me, hybridizing action with like Diablo, like using the right stick is basically how Diablo controls and doing a third person Diablo. I think that there was some interesting stuff there, but ultimately was way too complicated. And for a game that was trying to be approachable, I think for like I didn't know anything about Diablo and loot systems and what I was supposed to be doing, so I was kind of lost. And I wish it
Oh,
would
really?
had introduced me to that when I was playing that game, because I thought it was more of like a kind of prestige game, like it was a big game that is like how we're trying to make it more accessible to me in some ways for consoles, right? Because every other Diablo game was PC only. So I wish it would have set the table for me more. But there was some interesting stuff in it. And I did have the same thought. It's so weird. Like I think it's also like the look at the levels remind me of Too Human as well.
Yeah.
But I would say I think their focus on this is combat. Like they are going for very precise, um, interesting combat systems is the goal, I think. Whether that's true or not, we'll see. You have Sekiro to live up to. Every game will be held to Sekiro standards from henceforth. And yeah, if I play it and you're not Sekiro levels, bye-bye.
Yeah,
I must say, go ahead, Sean.
I don't have too much to say. I dig sort of Diablo style action RPGs. I do feel like because this one was a bit of a longer gameplay thing, that wasn't really doing it any favors. Like I was definitely kind of getting bored by the end. So I don't know if that's a sign that it's not a game for me or if it's just that they weren't presenting it that well, but I'm sort of interested.
Yeah, I thought this was probably one of the longest. I think it was like 5 or 6 minutes long or something. It was quite long. And I thought Sony must be publishing this game because it doesn't look very good to me. But then I just looked at its Gearbox. So I think Gearbox is shelling out some serious money for this, both for the development and for the marketing, because like they got a pretty good chunk of, I think, the last kind of like state of play or whatever Sony did when they filled this out or when they showed it. So I have a feeling they are doing quite a big push. And I just looked and it says PS5 and Microsoft Windows only. So I don't know if that's another reason why Sony is giving it such a good platform, because it's not coming to Xbox One or Xbox Series X.
So it looks like there is some type of exclusive deal going on.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it's getting such a big block of time in these shows.
Okay, so I just want to take a little break, not like a break from just listing off stuff, and talk about the show a bit to break up the monotony here a bit. So obviously this was a surprise, but to me, they kind of set the expectations that this is like PS4, PSVR stuff, not PS5. And compared to Microsoft's first party Xbox Series X showcase, or what that was claiming to be, like I found the games in this, and we haven't got to the games I thought were the best yet. Like I was way more intrigued by everything in this than I was Sony or Microsoft's video a few weeks ago. Like to me, that is a huge failure. When indie games and picking what indie games to show, like are already doing way better than anything Microsoft showed me. Like this is not good for Microsoft.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
I mean, for me, like a lot,
Phil
like
Spencer, I'm losing my fucking mind. Like
I just don't understand why.
Look better than what they showed. Well, not every like Hood, definitely not. But most of the games, I was like, I'm way more excited for this than I am almost everything except for Halo Infinite, which was still a disappointment. Like this is not a good show. Like they got to be losing their mind over there.
I just don't get why they're not mixing in more indie stuff with some of these presentations. Like I don't know if it's because there's this focus on next gen and it's got to be like the best graphics and that's all we want to show people. But to me, it's like if you can show like a variety of stuff, like some of these indie games are so interesting and different, and they look different from the other stuff. Like there just gets to be a bit of burnout when you're just seeing like 10 or 12 sort of AAA action, fantasy, sci-fi games. They all kind of start to look the same after a while. You need something to break it up.
Yeah, but I mean, still the gameplay looks intriguing as well. So it's not art style and gameplay for a lot of the games we're about to look at. I was in like
Hmm. I
something
agree.
interesting about them. So let's get into some of those. Uh, One that got a lot of time was the Pathless, which I think looks pretty good. I'm not going to say I think it looks amazing by any means, but I was extremely intrigued by the locomotion and kind of going back and forth with your eagle. And there was one section where you were going through the trees and using it to dash and like these midair dash moves, which instantly reminded me of Infamous Second Son and First Light. And like it looks like extremely fun locomotion, which I still haven't played a game with locomotion as good as Infamous Second Son. Um, so I am looking forward to this game. The art style is pretty good. It's obviously very simple, but uh, pretty. I don't know if I would say it looks amazing visually, but I think this game looks pretty cool.
Just to stop you there, you don't think Spider-Man's locomotion is better than Infamous Second Son?
I do not. I actually,
Really?
I think Spider-Man's locomotion is great, but the way Infamous Second Son, like the ability to do a double dash in the air led to so much rewarding uh experiences, like getting mid-air collectibles. There were shards in the air and off buildings, and you had to like kind of chain together moves to get those. So it's a combination of design and locomotion. I still love the swinging in Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, but in terms of just finding things and traversing the world being a rewarding experience, it's still the best I've ever played. And like First Light just focused on the neon elements, and I thought that was great too. So I don't know, nothing's come close to me. But Spider-Man
Yeah.
is very good. That's a good one to bring up if you're going to bring up one.
Well,
This is
same team too.
This is apparently from the people
No,
who did Abzu, which I haven't played, but I've heard pretty good things about.
Spider-Man's Insomniac Sucker Punch.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. Okay. And yeah, back to this game. Yeah, the Abzu creators.
Yeah, which I've not played Abzu. Have you guys played it?
No.
I played a little bit of it. I think it was on Game Pass or something when it first came out. I didn't really get into it. I played it for a bit. Oh no, you know where it is? It was free on the Epic Store. I think that's where I have it. And I didn't really get into it. It didn't really. I thought it was going to be something kind of like Journey underwater, but it never really grabbed me in the same way. But I actually was getting sort of like Breath of the Wild feel.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say that
game.
too. Yeah. Yeah,
and
I thought it looked good.
Bit of a hint of Shadow of the Colossus. Obviously, it's fresh in my mind with what like each of these mythical creatures or whatever they call it. That's also Breath of the Wild, very similar. But yeah, I'm with you on both of those.
Yeah, it looked pretty fun. I don't know if I was as sold on the locomotion, but at first I was a little surprised because the world looked a little sparse. Because I think this was the first PS5 game they showed off in the presentation. So I guess my expectation was just a little higher for what the world was going to be, but it was definitely stylized and definitely I think they had a lot to show as the video went on.
Yeah, the big thing to me in this game is they said there's no map. It's like a vision mode you go into where you can see where you've been, where you haven't been, and where you can go to expand like things to do. That's a huge thing to do for an open world game. So if that system is cool, could be really interesting, but I've definitely got my doubts about a mapless open world game. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it must be pretty close to being done because it's holiday 2020, so it's some sort of launch title.
Looks pretty good. I didn't know if this was exclusive or not. I haven't seen anything. Okay, moving on. Aeon Must Die, which before recording, I just saw there's some story about a an alleged workplace abuse. I do not know much about this, so I will speak of it just about what I saw in the video, and I thought this looked amazing. Clearly inspired to me, and the music was amazing.
Yeah,
But the
I
feel
wrote that.
of an 80s cartoon is exactly what it felt like to me.
It's funny. I have like GI Joe-esque.
Yes. And it nailed it to me. It just crushed that feeling. Which
But could you even tell what this game was? Was it a fighting game?
I thought it was a beat 'em up, like a kind of a Battletoads
Okay.
type game, like a side-scrolling beat 'em up. And I thought,
It says it's an innovative tactical fighting game.
yeah,
Turns
but that's
the beat 'em up
I
genre
know
on
what
its
I'm
head.
saying, because the camera never really moved, right? The camera was always fixed, whatever they were doing. So it might not be that. That's what I thought it was. So,
Yeah, I wrote down the same thing. I wrote down the music, the synth music, and the like GI Joe style VO going on, almost like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget or something like that, you know.
and
But
visually it looked like one of those as well.
yeah, so I couldn't make out what the gameplay was exactly. Like I couldn't tell if what they were showing was just cinematic, if it was actual gameplay, because it was all very like fast, and there was no like central point to kind of anchor yourself to figure out what was going on. But it seemed that there was only ever two people kind of involved in any of the battles, so that's why I thought it was a fighting game. But maybe it is a beat 'em up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's
But like,
it's totally that. Like now that I'm looking at it, uh, like I said, the camera never moves, but there are multiple enemies on screen, almost in a row. Some just single fights, but the thing that threw me off with that, I think, is there's a part where the character is riding on a vehicle, which I think gave me the vibe of a side scroller, but I think it is just, kind of a weird fighting game. But I don't know, it looks really cool. I think it's looking pretty good. Next is Anno Mutation.
Yeah, some of these titles, man, I don't know.
Now, I have to say, when it started off, it was almost like this kind of Mode 6-esque, like traveling down streets and all that stuff. And then it got into more gameplay. The longer this thing went on, the more intrigued I was. I actually think it looks really cool. I also don't know exactly what it is.
my first note was running in a straight line simulator question mark.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, they should be more like Mode 6 retro games, but they kind of expand into the combat side scrolling later into the trailer, and gotta say, thought this looked extremely cool.
Just so you know, it's Mode 7 that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, Mode 7. What's Mode 6?
Nothing. Mode 6 is nothing.
Super Scope 6.
Mode 7. Man, that is embarrassing. I am dripping with sweat right now. That is so sad.
I did like that. It seemed like they mixed 2D and 3D, which
Yes.
surprisingly not a lot of games do that, but I don't know. It seemed pretty cool to me too.
Yeah, I'm down. I think it looks great. Last few things I really have nothing to say about, so I'm going to bust all three out, and you guys chime in if you have anything to say. Genshin Impact, no needle movement here. Looked like kind of a generic
action JRPG,
some kind of thing. Dialogue obviously does nothing for me, but I'm clearly not the intended audience. Auto chess, which also I kind of skipped through, was not my type of game. Gameplay really is not that intriguing for this type of event, as far as I'm concerned. And finally, the one that out of all these that I was the most intrigued by was the Pedestrian, which looked like it had some cool puzzle elements. But you guys take over here. Any of these three you have passionate or dispassionate thoughts about?
I've been kind of keeping an eye on the Pedestrian because it's out on Steam now, and I was kind of waiting to see if it was going to be announced for consoles. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I don't know too much about it, but I've seen some gameplay videos, and it's just a puzzle platformer where you're essentially like a guy on signs, like sort of a stickman on signs, but you can like connect the signs together. And I don't totally understand how it works, but it looks pretty unique, and it got some pretty solid reviews. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's been out for about a year or so, and I think Auto Chess has also been out for quite a while on PC. I don't know about the JRPG one, but yeah, I'm in the same boat as Dwy with the Pedestrian. I've kind of just been it's been on my radar, but haven't had time to pick it up or anything yet.
All right, then that's it for the state of play. Overall, it was a pleasant surprise, I have to say. I think they did a good job not overhyping it for a week, like just saying we're going to do this later today, kind of set the stage for what we're about to see. And as I mentioned, very pleasantly surprised by a lot of the games in this.
One thing about the state of play, like, is that a monthly thing now? Has it always been that? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Because
there was a lot of time between some of the first ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be cool if it was, but I guess they might not be able to have enough content to do that. But
the only thing I can say is I actually wish it was a little shorter.
Yeah.
And maybe a little more often, like, maybe only a 20-minute thing, and then you get 2 shows out of it. But obviously they're trying to build some hype for these games, and they obviously had enough to show here to fill a whole 40-minute show. But I don't know, by about the 25, 30-minute mark, I was kind of dragging. And then by the time Godfall hit at the end, I was like just skipping through pretty quickly. I wasn't really paying much attention. So I think I think for this type of show, if you had gone more like 20, 25 minutes, it would have probably hit even better, but never know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's mention quickly Rockstar on Twitter, it looks like today.
Rocksteady.
Rockstar. I'm losing it.
This guy's on vacation already. Shut her down.
Rocksteady announced their next game is a Suicide Squad game. Still remains to be seen if it's just villains you're playing as or both sides potentially, which I had postulated earlier in the year. But I mean, I'm excited. I really don't think there's that much to talk about. It was kind of rumored already. So I guess it's a good sign, and maybe it will be coming this year or early 2021, which has me excited.
Yeah, so they said this had been rumored for like a month or so now, I think. And so this is the first confirmation that, yes, this is their next game. They did say they're going to be revealing something at the DC Fandome on August 22nd. So I don't know if that's just going to be a trailer or like a more in-depth thing. But I mean, it makes sense to me because, like some of the things that have been talked about for them for their next game, potentially like Justice League was something that was being thrown around at one point. And I never really understood how they could pull that off. Obviously, like a game where you control like Superman or some of these very powerful heroes would be pretty tricky. But Suicide Squad makes perfect sense. I mean, take what they had with Batman and just give different characters with different abilities. Like, I think that sounds great. I'm a little intrigued by that teaser image that has Superman in the crosshairs. I don't know if that means he's sort of the villain of the game, maybe, which could be interesting, but very excited. I'm definitely down for this.
I have no comment until there's some actual news.
I like that take, Huck. Next, let's get into it. A news article that Sean sent me today had basically that Xbox cloud services or whatever we're calling it will not be coming to iOS because it cannot be approved based on Apple's policies. and I've been waiting for this for quite some time. I am fully immersed in the Apple ecosystem, especially for my phones. So this is like kind of surprising. And when you get into the details, it's related to, it seems like it's about not being able to approve each individual game that's featured through a streaming service. And the rebuttals have been pretty good, in my opinion. Apple Arcade, no, obviously that's first party and they probably curate whatever's on there, but still, it's interactive. And I mean, streaming services, Netflix, anything that's a streaming service with an app, tons of content they put on at their discretion. Anyone can access that stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's different. Huck, you had some good points before. Maybe you can get into that one.
Yeah, so well, I've developed a game for Apple Arcade, a fold-apart kind of Apple Arcade. So that is definitely curated through Apple. They approve everything that goes through that, even though it does have like I had never actually done the Apple Arcade on a tablet or anything, but does it have a special app that you launch everything through?
I'm pretty sure.
It's just the App Store. There's a tab within the App Store that says Arcade, and you just go into that.
So you still download individual games?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my point before we were talking before the show was basically that because it's being streamed through the device, there's the opportunity for in-app purchases that won't go through Apple's store, so they won't get a cut of any in-app purchases that could happen or any DLC purchases. It would basically still go to Microsoft because it would obviously be hosted on their servers. And I think that's probably more of the thing. Probably the same thing with Stadia. I'm sure because they can't actually, because it's not a native app to the iOS and development or iOS environment. I think that's probably the bigger issue than that they just don't like a streaming service, because obviously, like you said, Netflix is a streaming service, and essentially the content is the same. Essentially, you're sending a little more feedback with a game than you would be with Netflix, but you are still sending feedback through the app.
I think Microsoft's response also included Black Mirror as an example of streaming interactive content.
Okay, yeah, but Black Mirror doesn't have any in-app purchases.
Oh, correct.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what their hangup is, that they can't control that. I don't know. There's been some articles and talk lately about how people have been bringing up that the 30% take from platform holders is too much, and they seem to all be targeting Apple for some reason, all these takes. And I don't know. Apple does quite a bit of testing, kind of like the other consoles. Steam, as far as I know, does very little. I don't know why the ire isn't on Steam for instead of Apple, because Apple actually does do a QA process and make sure like you're not installing tons of spyware and stuff on their devices and whatnot. So I don't really understand, but I think it is the in-app purchases that is driving their decision not to let these on.
Well, either that or just that Apple, in a sense, is a competitor. Like they have a platform a gaming platform, right? So why do they want to allow another gaming service onto their platform? Like to me, the argument to me that they need to be able to review each of the games does not hold water. Like you said, like you're not the content that's being provided over Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff like that. Like Apple has no say in that. They have no, like, why would they? It doesn't make sense. And like, you can also play HTML5 games in browsers on iOS. Can you not?
Yeah, they said you can still use browsers on iPads and other things for both of these services.
Oh, that does work?
Yeah, you can use Safari.
Oh,
or that they said, I think they said they're permitted to use browsers to do the same thing.
That's interesting, because I didn't think, like, because
I can use my laptop to play Stadia through Safari. That works fine. Oh, maybe not. Maybe
there's a laptop, but not on. I bet you it doesn't work on an iPad or iPhone. I could be wrong.
I know it's not iPhone. I've never tried it through Safari. Well, Xbox doesn't work through Safari, as far as I know. Like you have to have the app.
Right.
Stadia works through a browser, but I think only Chrome supports it. But as long as they supported Safari, I think Apple's response was they could put it on there, no problem.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, to me, this is a big barrier to the idea of cloud or streaming games taking off. Like, I mean, if a huge section of the population can't play it on their mobile device, and I mean, obviously Stadia has this issue as well. I mean, they're not as concerned because it's Google, so they want to just focus on Android anyway. But to me, that is a big barrier, and I don't know how they're going to get around it. I mean, I think it's annoying that Apple won't approve it, and I don't think they have a great reason for it. But it's well within their rights to say, sorry, we're not letting you have that on our app store.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this article, I obviously was disappointed because I was looking forward to this stuff. I was a little defensive towards Apple just because
you love Apple.
Well, I'm going to say why I definitely am with them with a lot of this stuff because they're doing a huge push. I don't know if you guys saw the Worldwide Developers Conference, their press conference there of like exposing websites and other apps that are like taking data that you don't even know about. And they're giving alerts and building all of that stuff in when they use access information. There's been things that have been revealed with Instagram. Now they claim they're bugs, but it was accessing your camera when you didn't know, accessing your clipboard and what you have copied on your clipboard at different times. And so like the new Apple stuff, like they are to me really about like privacy and data integrity for their consumers, which I'm clearly in favor for. My first reaction is, maybe they're doing some shady stuff with data or something like that. But I don't think that's the case. But I don't know. It sucks. I'm not happy about it, but I mean, maybe at some point it'll happen. I have no idea. It's not a game or a game changer for me. I'm not switching to Android ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if Sony somehow knew that this was going to be an issue down the road, and that's why they kind of backed off with some of their stuff. Like, I mean, PlayStation Now used to be on more devices, and I think they backed it off to only PC, right? Like, I don't think you can do it on Vita. I don't think. Oh, you can do it on PS4 as well, but not PS3, not Vita, and definitely no mobile devices as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Anything else with that topic?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll switch into what we played, but let's start off with Huck, you wanted to talk about the demos and the Microsoft demo. What was it called? The Game Fest?
Summer Game Fest or something like that. So I downloaded a bunch of the demos. Sean, I don't know if you got a chance to, but I played, let's see here. I played probably 10 or so of the demos. And overall, I found that there was a common theme in these demos. Like, just get to the gameplay. There was a few demos I played where they just inundate you with so much lore and like info dump in unskippable text. Like I had to shut the game off even before I started the gameplay because I just have no interest in that. It's a demo. I don't need to know all about the main character in this demo situation. And it was so frustrating that I didn't even get a chance to really see past some of these games because I did want to check them out. But one I played, which was called, I think it was called Forbidden Forgiveness. It actually had a little like feedback button on the main menu. So I actually like quit the game, went back in, went to the feedback and said like, at least make your text skippable because this is brutal, especially in the demo. So I don't know. That was kind of my big overarching takeaway from all the demos I played is just like, I know when we were releasing some of the demos years ago, like that was the big thing. Do you or do you not release a demo, and can it hurt you? And really, if you don't make a good demo, if you don't spend a lot of time, it can really hurt you. Like a couple of these games I was interested in, and now I'm not at all. And likewise on the other side, there's a few of these games I really liked from the demo that got me in right away. Had a quick little tutorial, didn't slaughter me over the head with all the lore of the world and everything. And I had never heard of some of these games, and now they're on my radar, and I really like them. So I think when you're making a demo, just like a quick takeaway is like really focus in on showing the player the gameplay, even if it's not the first level of the game. Just really tailor that demo to be something fun and something quick that doesn't go on forever.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I don't know if this applies to all the ones you're talking about, but there's a sort of I think a lot of people just think, oh, demo, okay, well, we'll just take the first 20 minutes of the game. But like sometimes the first 20 minutes of the game, there's a lot of setting things up. And I mean, I hate that in the game anyway, but like for a demo, yeah, you just want to jump in and see what it's about. You don't want to have to wade through a bunch of text. I agree.
Yeah, so there's a few standouts. I'll just touch on them briefly that I had either not heard of or heard very little about. The first was called Nine Monkeys of Shaolin, which is sort of like a beat 'em up game. The combat felt really good parrying. Everything was really well explained. Got right into the gameplay quickly. Highly recommended. It's kind of set in ancient China or something like that. Really fun game. Check it out. Nine Monkeys of Shaolin. The next one, which I think is getting some buzz, is called Christ Tales or Christ Tales. It's like an RPG. Sort of has Super Mario RPG style timing, button presses for the combat. The art is, we were talking about one of the games in the Sony State of Play that has like 3D environments with 2D character art. That's the art style for this game, except it's much more fantasy than like that other game was. I can't remember what it was called that was in the Sony State of Play. But the game started off with a good fight, and then it taught you the lessons, and then it was just all this slow fetch quest shit. And it really turned me off. And like that's fine for starting a typical RPG, but for a demo like this, it really turned me off. Next one was
the art stuff. Looks a lot like looks like it's Persona influence, Persona 4 and 5.
Yeah, not quite so anime with its like text kind of being
like the way they're doing the attack and skill commands look really similar to Persona. Anyway.
Yeah, the battles seem really fun, but yeah, just the rest of the demo was not great. And then I played through The Veil, which is the hearing only game that friends of ours made is it Falling Squirrel Studios?
Yep.
And it is really cool. Now I probably did a little bit of a disservice because I was not playing with headphones, but I was really impressed with how they did the hearing only. So there is on the main menus, there is visual text and stuff, but it literally describes everything that's on the screen. And as you press down, it describes what you're on. It explains what the button will do. Like just really thoughtful in how they did it. And then once you get in the game, they basically just have this sort of like floating star field. Essentially, it's not exactly a star field, but it's like that, and it's really quite immersive. When
much.
Yeah, it's just but I mean that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But it's really quite immersive to be focused just on the audio aspect and trying to pick up on subtle audio cues. And I did get lost, but I think that was more because I wasn't playing with headphones and I wasn't totally focusing on what the guy was telling me. So. Dave, if you're listening, maybe have like a slight hint system added in. If you pace around for too long, maybe just give a quick reminder of what you're supposed to do. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to trying out the full thing. Did you try that one, Dwyer?
Yeah, I did, and I liked it as well. I had basically the same problem as you. Like I wasn't using headphones, so I felt like I wasn't totally picking it up every time. But now this was one that I thought had a bit of a lore dump at the beginning, but I think audio stuff is very underrated. Like games that can rely almost entirely on audio, I think there's a lot that can be done there, and I think this is really cool.
I love the way they've gamified like the audio stuff, like knowing when attacks are incoming and parrying, and I think the voice acting is also really strong and the writing.
Yeah, it is.
I agree. I'm glad you guys liked it. I think it's got a lot of potential. There's obviously so many things you have to figure out when doing an audio-based game, and it's a lot of new territory and maybe some of the issues Huck ran into, but there definitely some cool ideas in there. And I don't know if you guys got into any of the like when you're in a relatively open area. I don't know if the demo gets into that. I've played more of it, but you kind of have options as to where to go, and there's like these audio landmarks in the landscape, like a waterfall and other things.
Right. Yeah.
What quest are you going to do next? These side quests, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I go ahead, Sean.
Well, I played a few things. One thing that's cool is if you have them downloaded, they still work even after the deadline. So there's a few more I want to go back to, but I just have two I'll mention real quick. Scourgebringer. Did you try this one?
I did
by
not.
Any chance? It's kind of reminded me of Dead Cells. Like it's roguelite, but felt a bit Metroidvania-esque. I mean, I didn't get far enough to actually know if that's the case, but just the movement and attacks and stuff I really liked. And then another one called Ponpu. Ponpu. Kind of like Bomberman. Like it's like a multiplayer game, and you kind of drop these bomb type things. The art style is really interesting. It's mostly black and white with like splashes of color. And I mean, I actually only tried the multiplayer. I was playing with the kids, but I think there is like a campaign as well. So that one caught my attention for sure.
Another one I tried was a game called Freshly Frosted, which at first I thought was going to be like Overcooked, which it kind of is. It's kind of like this, you bake donuts, and essentially you have to lay tracks down. So there's a starting point and an end point. So the starting point is the oven, and the end point, I guess, is like the receptacle to receive the donuts. And so every second or so, maybe probably even faster than that, a donut comes out, and the point is to lay the track to get to the receptacle. But as the game progresses, you have to do like a plain donut, and then you do a donut with frosting, and then you don't do a donut with frosting and sprinkles, and then you do like there's two ovens, and there's two exits, and now you have to wind the track in the appropriate positions so that both donuts can get to the end, and they just keep kind of building on it. So I don't know. I thought it had lots of potential, and I really like that kind of puzzle game. So this one is definitely on my radar that I'd never heard of before. And then another one that I thought actually Frank would like, it's called Kaz and the Wild Masks. And it's this nice art style 2D platformer. I almost felt like it was a mix of Sonic and Super Mario World. And I don't know, it just felt really fun. It seemed to have like a lot of borrowed mechanics, but it was fun when I played, and there's a lot of like little hidden things to find. And it was a neat little game. Yeah.
This is reminding me a bit of that, although that one's 3D, the Sonic Team game that I talked about last time that got teased after the Microsoft. Anyway.
Yeah.
This looks
also
cool.
I thought maybe like Shantae minus the minus the combat. And then I played Haven, which I think is a pretty hyped up game. And it's kind of like a third person motion game with some weird, almost like Journey-like style puzzle. I don't know, like, and then it was mixed with a first-person ship exploration with cooking mechanics and these like weird RPG leveling skills, and then there's like this whole romantic storyline it goes off on. I felt the art style was really nice, but the gameplay I found really boring, and I just had no interest in playing this game. And I think this game is pretty hyped up, but I had no interest after playing this demo, unfortunately. Uh,
Well, I tried this one as well. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was like,
yeah, it was really confusing. There wasn't much to go on. I played another brawler game called Mayhem Brawler, which I picked up because I thought it was going to be like Streets of Rage, and it was, but I think this would have benefited from coming out before Streets of Rage 4, because Streets of Rage 4 is just so polished and the animation is so smooth, and this one just felt a little sluggish and stiff. And they only let you try one character, so maybe it was just the character I was trying, because he was kind of this like beefy guy that is probably meant to be slow and strong, but it just didn't have the same polish level that Streets of Rage 4 did. And so I liked it, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it. I would much rather recommend Streets of Rage 4 over this game.
Well, just to tie in with the Streets of Rage 4, we were talking about this with the Xbox video, but Battletoads is coming out in 13 days on Xbox Game Pass. So it's kind of grown on me a bit. And the last trailer, I am a little more intrigued than I was before. So I'll be checking that out.
Cool. The last one I'll try, which I'll talk about just super quickly, is Skatebird, which I think, Sean, you were interested in trying out.
I did briefly try it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also briefly tried it, because this game literally has no tutorial at all. It literally just throws you into a skate park with the Skatebird and is like, go have fun. And you have no idea what to do or how to do anything. And it was a poor demo for just not explaining anything.
I mean, the controls felt very similar to Tony Hawk, but I guess the difference being that you have wings, so you can kind of float, and like, I don't know. I could totally figure out how that works into it, but I did feel like maybe this would be more like, I feel like the fact that there's a new Tony Hawk game, or at least the remaster coming out, maybe is a bit of a blow to them, because it would have been like hey, if you missed Tony Hawk, check this out. But now there is actually Tony Hawk. So
yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's it. I just wanted to touch on those. I don't know if you have any more, Sean, that you played that you want to talk about, but I thought it was pretty neat, a pretty neat little thing that they give you access to, and they kind of highlight them. I thought is a good idea.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, the only thing that sucks is like if you download a ton of them, they're just scattered all over throughout your game library. I wish there was a way to have them nicely collected somewhere.
Yeah, you might be able to add them to your home screen and pin them with like a special tag, but obviously that's work on your end, not automatically done.
They already have a grouping feature in Xbox and creating groups for your pins and all that stuff. So maybe if they did an automatic grouping for that stuff, that could have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So getting on to other stuff we've played, we're already over an hour. Do people want to talk about anything, or I will talk about stuff. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, I got something small. So, you go ahead.
So I have been playing The Shadow of the Colossus, a game which Sean and I have been talking about. I've started, this is probably the fourth time I've started this game. I don't think I've ever made it past the fourth Colossus. I'm playing the HD remake on PS4. This game has been touted as one of the greatest games of all time. Reviews for the remake come in at 10s all over the place. And it's a really interesting game to me, because clearly there are control issues, and it's got a steep learning curve. And I do think if it nailed what it was going for, it would be in the consideration for one of the best games of all time. I think visually, presentation wise, everything about it is amazing. Such a cool concept, amazing game. I think I read an article, an old Tim Rogers article, where he talked about it. The designer wanted to invert a Zelda dungeon. So like it's kind of combining a Zelda boss and dungeon all into one, which is which each of these colossi represent. So uh I have to say the first few Colossus are very good to me. Like to me, there's an inherent flaw though, because very early into each Colossus, the game tells you, basically gives you a hint, a straight up, like a bit obscure, but a hint as to what you have to do. So if the design really did work as intended, that hint should be unnecessary, in my opinion. Um, and I think it's very necessary because some cases you really wouldn't know what to do. Again, playing with a guide. I did not play with a guide. I had to look up how to do 2 Colossus. I had no idea what to do. And everything I did, it kind of is like a Zelda dungeon where I was doing the right thing, but just not in the exact perfect way, which is exactly what I do in every Zelda game. I just realized that now. But some Colossus, for the most part, are amazing. And it's also a very unique experience because I'm playing through it again, and it is such a better game on replay. Once I know what to do for every Colossus, and now that I've played with the controls, which are very finicky, and the horse is annoying, and you really have to kind of relearn how to play the game. But once you do that, it's amazing. Like going through it, knowing what to do is so much better than experiencing it and like figuring it out, which like to me is a double-edged sword. Like it's still a good game, but figuring out what to do should be the good thing about this game. And it can be extremely frustrating in the moments trying to do. And in particular, Colossus 11 is this one that you have to use fire on. It's really different than all the Colossus. And to me, that one is just broken. There are tons of issues with that one. It's not that interesting. There's too many places you can go. Like there's too much freedom in some of these Colossus battles that I think should have just been gated. And like that one stun locks you for these insane amounts of time where it really is frustrating. So that to me is probably the worst Colossus. And then it repeats that one. No Colossus repeats itself except for the worst one. You either got to repeat them all and do different takes on each one, or just cut that other one. Like to me, that's a huge problem with the game. Well, not huge. It's a problem with the game. Let's not get crazy, Frank. And the final boss is awful. Like just awful. There is a jump you have to do in that, and when you don't do it, you have to pretty much start. You have to reclimb a huge structure just to get to the point you were at. And also, there's like design issues with the final boss where every other time you need to like kind of hit weak points to get it into vulnerable positions, there's tells on the boss. And those are gone for the final boss. I literally never would have figured out what to do for the final boss if I didn't look it up. I would have quit this game. And not only would I have quit it, I would have been like looking at it after the fact, I would have lost my mind. Like, how would I have known how to do that? Coupled with the fact that when you fail halfway through it, you get sent down to the bottom of this enormous tower, essentially. Oh my God, it is brutal. And more people need to be calling this out on the best game ever made. It's ridiculous. But now that I know how to do it and I'm breezing through the game, it's so much fun. It's weird. It's the only game I've ever experienced where the replay is like amazing to me. Like it's just taking in the art in the world, and all the frustrations are controls. Admittedly, there could be a lot of improvements to controls in this game. And like the lizards and hunting those down for stamina are very buggy and really annoying. They deliberately, with the HD remake, were trying to capture everything, even the annoyances of the first one, even though they made some improvements. I still think they should have taken it even further. They changed some stuff, fixed the annoying stuff in this game. To me, it's pretty obvious what the annoying stuff is. And I was reading comments on YouTube about the 11th Colossus, like, get good, you don't know what to do, for people complaining. I can tell you right now, the boss is fucking broken. Objectively broken. because every other Colossus, when you get injured, it's a substantial amount of damage when you get hurt. This thing rams you as hard as it can, and it takes off this much health and stun locks you forever. To me, pretty obvious playtesting. People were losing their fucking mind, and the boss or the Colossus is pretty much unfair. And when there's that, like, all of a sudden some arbitrary change to how you take damage in the game that's that drastic, reeks to me of this was a huge problem in playtesting. And you're not going to tell me anything different. If you disagree with me, I'm sorry. You are wrong. I'm usually open to debate. I will discuss and see your side of things. Colossus 11 is broken. It's a problem. If it's your favorite game, you must admit it. I'm sorry. I'm calling you out. It's broken. And the final boss is broken. Admit it. It's fucking broken. And you know what? A game with 2 out of 16 dungeons or whatever that are completely broken is never the best game of all time. I'm sorry. Get real.
Okay, good, bud.
I am good at it now. And it's still I can still acknowledge it's a problem. Anyway.
Do you think it has some, with the control issues, do you think it has some resemblance to like Bloodborne and Demon Souls and Dark Souls, that sort of same ramp up in difficulty, but just in a different way?
To me, this game is not about difficulty. It's really not that difficult a game. And really the enjoyment should be discovering how to beat the Colossus. So that's another, like I'm saying, I found the process of discovering what to do frustrating. And a lot of like random stuff of getting the boss in the right animation and how to do that is not clear. And that's why once you know what to do in this game, it's so much better. It's so weird. I've never played a game like that where I'm like, knowing what to do and missing out on the discovery of the game is to me, a superior experience. I've never played a game where that's happened before. And it speaks a lot about the game, like how good it is visually and conceptually. And once you know what you're doing, I just don't think the game teaches what you need to do that well. There are huge, huge missteps at very key parts in the game. Other than that, it's awesome. And the last part where you have to jump over this bridge with your horse is so poorly done. Like, it's so unnecessary. I mean, there's a story element to it. That's why it has to happen, but completely ridiculous in my opinion. But still a very good game, potentially great game, depending on how you're looking at it. But I look at the comments. Everyone is saying the same stuff. Why is this the cross that all video game journalists bear, where it's like, this game's a 10, this game is a 10. And I see like everyone's saying the same things. The controls are broken. There's things that are wrong with this objectively. Nope, sorry, it's a masterpiece, 10 out of 10, and no one will bend on it. It's
because it has a like emotional story beat right at the end of the game. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, a lot of journalists get stuck on that last.
Like the ending, ironically, or not ironic, coincidentally, pardon me. Dave, who did the Veil, ruined the ending for that game for me. I'd never beaten it, and he spoiled the ending. Like, it was 15 years or 12 years after the game came out, but I was surprised.
How dare he?
No, I don't care. One of the great game endings was spoiled by someone we talked about their game on this podcast. No hard feelings, just for the record.
For me, I think with this game, I think why you're enjoying it so much on a second playthrough, now you know what to do, is that a lot of the fail states for the Colossus is returning essentially to the beginning of the dungeon. Like, for me, I remember, I haven't played it in probably 10 years or more. I played it originally on whatever PS2 or whatever it came out on, but I remember the bird one. If you fall off that bird, you then have to walk all the way back to like whatever tower is highest.
I wish. Swim over.
Oh, swim over. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, swim. So like a lot of the punishment for failure in this game is time based, and it is a gigantic penalty, just like you were saying with falling off the end tower. So I think once you master the controls and can limit your amount of failure because you know how to manage your grip better, I think you then reduce your frustration with the game. And I think that's why it becomes better as you become more skilled at the game, because you are not wasting as much time.
Yeah,
which is not necessarily a good design. But
I agree. My issues are no longer present with the Colossus 11, but the final boss has a jump in it that I could never master. I got completely lucky. It took me 30 tries, and I finally did some weird thing that I read on a YouTube video, and it finally worked. But I mean, when you're jumping to the one hand off the shoulder, if anyone's out there listening that knows what I'm talking about, that jump is brutal. Absolutely brutal. Unequivocally the worst. Sorry. Deal with it. Not my problem. Just accept it. Just say yes. It's broken. There's no other answer. Get good is not the answer. I am good, for the record.
For the record.
Yeah.
Take it away, Sean. Let's get Frank off of this rant he's on.
But I am going to try and platinum it. Which I thought after I was done that boss.
He's back on the rant.
Sorry, I don't think this is good. I think I'm done with this game. My streak of platinums is going to come to an end. But I got into the new Game Plus and Time Attack, and I'm like, this is even better. I'm loving this. This is like a 2-hour movie now. I'm just going to blow through it and love it. It's a very interesting game. Very interesting. I could talk about it for 2 more hours if you guys want.
I have to do Game Junk reviews on
Might
that.
do solo.
I'm not going to be playing it anytime soon. I'll tell you that right now.
You know what I should do? I'm not going to. I say I should do a lot of things and don't do it. When I do my hard playthrough, I should stream it and do time attacks and stream those and say why they're like what's great and what's broken.
You should.
Let's do it. All right, real quick, sort of palate cleanser here. They just on PlayStation Plus, one of the free games this month is Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. I think it's also on PC, and it's sort of this kind of a battle royale style game, but it's more of like, it's not like Fortnite. It's not like a shooter. It's an obstacle course game, and I was intrigued, and it was free, so I played a bit of it, and it was pretty fun. The idea is you start with like 60 different people all playing online together, and you're just sort of these little blob type characters, and you're just running through this colorful obstacle course, and you can kind of pull people out of the way and try to jump, and sometimes you get knocked completely out of the world and you're immediately eliminated. But as you go, there's like, say the first round, there's like 30 or 40 people that qualify to move on to the next round. And then you do a different obstacle course, or, there's other mini games as well. Like it reminded me a bit of Mario Party in that sense. Like sometimes one is like a memory game where there's different tiles that you see what the board looks like, and then they flash something on the screen and everybody's got to move to one of the tiles. And if you're not on it, you fall off. And so there's different rounds until at the end, there's one person remaining and they're the winner. And it's just a cool idea, easy to pick up and play. I think there's a ton of ways they can improve it. I mean, one of the things is like, as soon as you get eliminated, you can sit there and spectate the next few rounds, but I don't know how many people are doing that because it's not that fun. So if you could find a way for these spectators to somehow still be involved, I think that could be a big win. If they added local co-op, I think that would be pretty cool. I think I didn't try this, but I assume they have a way that you can form a party and play online with a bunch of friends. But I think some kind of local split screen thing would be pretty fun too. And, I guess you could constantly add new mini games and stuff and keep it fresh. But I don't know. It seems to be like pretty popular right now and just something that kind of just exploded, and a lot of people are playing it online right now. I don't know if it'll have sort of staying power. I guess it depends how much they keep evolving it, but I thought it was pretty cool. I'm always a fan when I see something that's just sort of a simple idea executed well, and easy to pick up and play. So that's Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout.
Did I hear this is basically like MXC, the video game sort of idea?
Yeah, Wipeout, same kind of thing, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. And I think, it seemed like they were drawing from stuff like Tetris 99 and some of these other, like even like, I guess Roblox is kind of like that. Like the kids play that. A lot of the games that are in that are just sort of obstacle course things where there's tons of people running around, although they're not all running at the same time trying to get across the finish line necessarily.
So I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but it's available for free on PlayStation Plus.
Yep.
And can you do parties? Like if we were talking together on a party, could we link into the same game?
Yeah, I didn't try that, but I'm pretty sure that exists. I saw there was a button that said invite, so I assume you could just invite a bunch of friends together and do that, which would be pretty fun. I think we should try it sometime.
I'll download it tonight.
One thing I in kind of the news about this. Now I heard this on a podcast. I didn't see any written about it, but apparently people are review bombing this game because I guess they had some server issues because it was so popular. Which just don't do that. Just don't do that. Don't be assholes. Like
review bombing. That's a whole other thing. We got to talk about that at some point. I know Metacritic made some changes which don't really address the issue, but
isn't it to the point where review bombing has just made them obsolete? Like I would never look at user scores for a game. It's completely irrelevant to me. I would listen.
That's true.
I would be like, "Where's Frank? What is Frank saying about this game?" He's always right. And
I don't know how much people look at.
I think is always right.
I think like on something like Steam, the user score is a little more prominent, right? Like Metacritic, that was a different thing. They made their changes where it's like 3 or 4 days before you can put up a user review. But I think Steam, you can do it right away. And I think it's like in the listing of games, that's like one of the first things you see. So I have to think it's a factor there.
Yeah, could be.
One other thing actually too that I heard about this game is that apparently some people are trolling other players in the game to the point where if you make it to the finish line first, instead of going across the finish line, they turn around and just start like throwing people around as they get to the finish line, which is kind of a dick move, but I guess you got to expect that kind of thing in a massive multiplayer game.
Yeah. I could jump in. I've just been playing Crosscode more. Everyone should play Crosscode. It's amazing. Frank, play Crosscode.
I just looked the trophies. You just get it through playing through the entire game. It's like
there you go. You have no excuse.
I'm gonna purchase it tonight.
I hope so. And then
it's on Game Pass, bud.
I don't fucking care.
He needs a plat. He's a Sony sellout.
Big time.
But yeah, definitely everyone go out there, buy that game wherever you can get it.
You know what's really sad? I'm gonna reveal something truly sad. Remember how I was talking about Spelunky being first party, published by Sony? That made me want to play it. I'm like, well, and then when you told me, oh, it's not, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna play it. How sad is that? That's absolutely pathetic.
Real sad.
So sad. I go through phases. One day I'll just switch to Xbox or Nintendo.
So all those developers out there, if you want Frank's seal of approval, just pretend to be a Sony published game, and you got it.
I mean, I beat Ori. I beat Ori in 12 hours. I played it from midnight till like 10 in the morning the next day. Let's be fair here.
Fair enough.
I'm just revealing.
You were gushing about
my
own
weird like psychology that's going on with this stuff. And I got to break free. I just can't. Like I thought Shadow was going to do it. I cannot break free of this platinum obsession. Can't do it. I'm hooked.
Oh, well.
Fuck it.
One day. Maybe your vacation will help you break free.
Might do it.
Just don't bring your Vita with you.
Oh, Vitacation. It's coming. I was just thinking I was trying to see if any of my friends' kids, there's like a bunch of us bringing seeing if they're bringing their Switches. It was going to be an excuse to bring my Switch, but I really should just bring the Vita. And Platinum Jack and Daxter 1. You. I'm looking at. Okay, I think we've said it all.
Okay, what do you mean okay?
All right.
There we
We've
go.
said it all. I've got nothing else. Next week is kind of up for debate. Might be a show, might not be. Might do a Ghost of Tsushima discussion with some other people. I don't know what's going to happen. Stay tuned. If there's big news, these two guys are going to get on it. They'll have to talk about it. Maybe I can call in from the road. Who knows? I'm going to be driving somewhere. So
Might have to.
if it's that, like, if some major like announcement drops, we're going to have to get on it. But thanks for listening. Check out youtube.com/GameJunk podcast.
No, just Game Junk.
No, this
Okay.
game junk.
Thanks, Sean. I got it right. Fuck.
You gotta throw in the YouTube. Like if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
I'm editing this out. I hate that shit. Smash this, do this, put this right here. I fucking
I
hate
hear it all day, bud. I hear it all day.
Oh,
I'll
never.
put the
We will
notification
never
bell
do
right
that.
here.
What a joke. Twitter, Game Junk Podcast, My Anger Commute, Equilibrium Sis.
Yeah.
Check those out. I think that's it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.